Oh, I think we're live. We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beauty of Breathing. I have the honor of having one of my favorite people in the world here with us today. And I've been saying that to everybody who is sticking to today. Oh my gosh, I'm interviewing one of my favorite people, Mike Cantrell. How are you doing today?
We need to broaden your list of people. I'm doing fine. I'm doing well. I'm happy as a clam.
It is such an honor to have you over here. A little bit of a different discussion than Airway Circle TNL. We go a little bit deeper, more for professionals here. We have a big range of professionals and the general public. So it's a more laid back conversation. Everybody who's listening to this live, if you guys don't know, I do record the Beauty of Breathing podcast episodes live on Instagram. So you can run over to my own moves and be a part of this live. So you can ask questions. Make sure to message. I'll be checking them out. So let me go ahead and present our speaker today. Presenting Mike Cantrell. He's a physical therapist and co-founder of the Applied Integration Academy, AIA, where he pioneered an interdisciplinary approach combining physical therapy, dentistry, myofunctional therapy, and human performance. With over 35 years of experience, he has educated healthcare professionals worldwide and consulted with elite athletes from organizations including the NBA, NFL, MLB, FIFA, and U.S. Navy SEALs. I can't tell which one's my favorite. Mike is also an author and educator, passionate about biomechanics, airway health, and human movement. Today's topic is, what do feet have to do with airway? Connecting the dots. Welcome to the Airway Circle, not Airway Circle, but the Beauty of Breathing stage.
Hi, yeah. It's a lot of dots to connect.
It is.
The airway thing. I thought it'd be a fun topic, and
I like it. Your work connects physical therapy, dentistry, myofunctional therapy, and performance in a way many people have never considered. How did you begin seeing these connections?
It was probably in 2008, 2009. At that time frame, I was exposed to this sort of material, and I had patients who shocker, I couldn't fix some people. Go figure. And as you struggle with these patients that you can't corral in and claim the success, you begin to realize that, well, first you analyze where you're weak. Where do I lack? And what I realized was sort of above the collarbones, I knew nothing. And that was very problematic. And I think a lot of PTs are this way. And below the chin, dentists know nothing. And I think the myofunctional therapist sort of owns this anterior neck that I refer to as the mandibular diaphragm. And in AIA, we sort of call it that. And because it is a functioning pump that has a septum that works like the pelvic and ribcage diaphragms, if we want to name those three and obsess on them, which we will here momentarily. So for me, realizing I had too many patients that I didn't know a thing about or how to fix, I realized that I better sharpen my sword, and I began to do that. And that has led me into nerd world, looking at research articles and realizing that people are putting out wonderful information, but we don't act on it, or I don't know. There's a delay between what's put out there before we ever do anything with it. Mm-hmm. And we don't look in the right journals. And so, I'm over here looking in physical therapy journals from 1989, when I was cheating off of Benjamin Franklin's paper in school. I realized that I better, get up to speed and learn more, because back then I didn't read research articles. Who does? I mean, I don't care about that stuff. But after a while, I began to realize I better. And as you do, I also realized, get out of my own journals. Get out of physical therapy journals. They're the last place you want to learn about physical therapy. And likewise, if I'm a dentist, let me get out of dental journals. And so I started realizing there's a whole world of physical therapy in the world of dental journals, and vice versa for dentists in the world of physical therapy. And myofunctional therapists are the umbrella that sort of covers both of us, because there's such a strong connection between this silly little thing we call a tongue and what it does for dentistry and for PT. So it's sort of the bridge that connects these two professions. And I joke all the time that PTs and movement, and not just PTs, chiros and massage therapists, everybody, and personal trainers. We're all down here in this body, and we reach up through the throat to shake hands with dentists who are reaching down through the mouth. And I think the person who's got their hands on top of our hands, holding our hands while we shake hands, is the myofunctional therapist. And I think that dentists don't realize the power they have, myos don't realize the power they have, and PTs don't realize the power they have. And you realize that when you read other people's stuff. So you look at somebody's shoulder and peek into their world, and you see a wealth of articles and information that explain why the stupid stuff you do works. And you didn't even know you were doing it. And so it makes a difference. So the journal articles kind of led me down a pathway that led us to forming, with my partner, James, and Alice Lamb, our dentist, to forming this academy. And because the academy itself, by having an academy, it sort of, what is it? The old saying is, if you really don't want to learn something, try to teach it. So it forces you to learn more. And so there's this pressure. I know you experience that yourself. There's a certain amount of external pressure from questions that you're asked. And you're like, I don't know the answer to that. And so you have to go and you seek. And as you seek, you find out the answer, but you also find out 10 more questions. Sorry for the long-winded response. You asked me this. That's how I got into it.
We are here to listen to you. But why do you think healthcare has traditionally separated the body into systems instead of viewing it as a one integrated structure?
I think 2 words: diagnosis codes. So, insurance companies drive reimbursement for a lot of healthcare. And if the insurance company is going to reimburse, they need a code. They need a diagnosis. What's wrong with this guy's shoulder? Well, he has a rotator cuff impingement. Okay, 726.1, whatever it is. And then you send in that diagnosis code, and then the insurance company reimburses. Well, the problem is, what insurance companies have done is they've said, well, for the poor doctor, the doctor says, well, my patient walks in and her neck hurts, her back hurts, her hip hurts, and her foot hurts. And the doc says, sorry, my insurance company only lets me treat 1 or 2 diagnosis codes at a time. So you'll have to come back for a different visit for me to treat your shoulder while I'm treating your neck. And so it gets into this insurance-driven care, and there's problems there. And so you're restricted. So I can't, if I'm a doctor, I can only look at 1 diagnosis code at a time. If I'm a dentist, I don't dare talk about somebody's back. If I'm a physical therapist, I can't talk about their teeth. If I'm a myo, I can't talk about anything but their tongue. So we're all stuck in a silo because of licensure and insurance companies. So it's what we see is, in normal fee-for-service practice, it tends to drive us into a position where we can actually look at this human that walked in. L.V. Pankey said it best. He said, I never saw a tooth walk in a clinic by itself. And it's true. And so Mike Cantrell says all the time, I've never had a patient come in yet without a head. So I better know how to look at it. And it's part of a body, so I better know how to examine it. I'm not breaking out a drill and working on a tooth.
Right.
I will dang sure discuss this patient's oral posture and behavior. And I think that's well within our purview to do that. So let's look at the whole body for once, please.
I love it. And the key of working together. It's okay if you don't understand, but reaching out to another professional. If you're a PT, reach out to a dentist. If you're a dentist, reach out to a PT and a myofunctional therapist.
Can we please? I'm just begging for that. I don't see a problem with that, and nobody should. It's like, I want to be able to phone a friend and say, hey, I've got a patient and I need help.
And by the way, if anybody listening is interested in starting their own study club, Airway Circle does help you do that. So reach out to me and we'll get you guys together. We just opened 2 chapters in North Carolina. We're opening a chapter in Florida. We're opening a chapter in Las Vegas right now. So many people that want to it's this interdisciplinary team where you get to see, because we do great things online. I try to get the community to grow as much as I can online, but the magic really happens in that local level. Where you guys right? Are
This
talking
is
to the
why
patient.
I know this is true for us. You know, we're sort of, I live in Georgia. I work in Houston, Texas. And my partner, James, lives in Utah. He works in Houston, Texas. And consequently, we have a ton of patients who will come into Houston, Texas. And I'm like, why are you coming to see us? I would love it if you could just be seen, as you said, locally at your own place. And that's what AIA is trying to do, is create pockets of places that understand this material to the depth and degree that we should. And that's our mission, to get people trained up, speaking the same language, and provide the Rosetta Stone to translate that language into something that people can work with. I don't want somebody might say, well, golly, wow, you've got patients coming from all over. And I'm ashamed when I hear that, because I want to hang my head and apologize and go, I know, I'm sorry. We're trying to fix it so they don't have to come. Nobody should fly 4,000 miles to be treated, but they're doing that, and it's wrong. What should happen is they should be treated locally. But until we can get the word out through your study clubs, through the efforts that we do with courses and this kind of thing, you know, we could have the best course in the world, but if 2 people show up to take the class, it's useless, right?
Yeah.
Who cares? Who cares? So doing things like these podcasts to get your information out, my information out, helps us get it where we don't have to see these patients from all over BFE coming to see me. It's dumb. If somebody thinks that I'm the sharpest tool in the shed, they're dead wrong. We need people who are
Pretty
way smarter than me. Yeah.
I know the first time I ever heard you speak, I'm like, I'm gonna go see him. He's in Georgia. I mean, I was in Savannah at the time. And
Right? And it's
yeah.
like, man, don't come see me. Go see somebody that knows what they're doing. Find somebody that actually has a good handle on all this material and is comfortable with it, that lives near you. And that's our goal. That's what we're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do with your study clubs as well.
So now with AIA, do you guys have a directory of professionals who have taken your courses?
We are currently creating that directory. We just changed up our website, and I'm so the web server we use needs to be better. And so, you know, people cry out all the time about the problems they're having with, you know, logging on and doing certain things. And it's the nuts and bolts that I despise, you know, that I'm not good at. Oh my God, you're way better than I am. I mean, you know, I can't even put out content on Instagram. You know, I suck. And I wish I were better, you know, but I'm always, I don't know. I'm busy.
We're all good at our own things. It's okay. But and whatever we're not good at, we partner with, right? We find people to help us. Things right out there. But I am going to add to our Airway Circle directory an option for them to write on there that they have taken your training. So if you're searching on the directory, you can search AIA, and it's going to pull up everybody who has added that to their bios.
Thank God. Yeah. Well, at least you're doing it. Somebody, I think we'd be smart enough to do that, but you know, we're taking forever.
It's gonna work. I mean, all of us have audiences, and we have different audiences.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if one person is doing this. We need everybody to be doing this because the
more we talk, yeah, they can say, I know her.
And what is the point of us doing this? Is to serve people, to get people the right help. And most of these patients don't even know that there's something that can be done. They don't even know they have a problem many times.
I know you're getting these. I know you get text messages and DMs all the time on Instagram, etc. I know I do, and nobody even knows who I am. But if I'm getting them, I know you're getting them, and I know all of our peeps are getting that we associate with, and these are people that need help. Just recently, I did a silly little post on Instagram about teeth, you know, extraction and this kind of thing. And I had so many like dentists who were just upset at me. And I was like, whatever. I mean, you can be mad. Don't shoot the messenger. You know, I'm like, this is just the way it is, pal. You know, it blows.
It's great. I mean,
it's old school. So I don't know. I don't know how I got on that.
The more you grow, the more you shake, you know, that traditional thinking, the more people are going to come after you. I just have gotten used to.
I love it. Just spell my name right when you yell at me, because I want to make sure that people understand this material. And I have totally lost any concern or fear about that stuff.
Yes,
And I'm like, we got to get this out there. You know,
exactly.
if I went on and did a post and said that, for example, um, a pronated foot, going back to our title, a
Yeah.
pronated foot can lead to external rotation of a temporal bone on the same
That's
side,
crazy. How would you
right?
say something like that?
Well, exactly. But I can look, well, oh, look, right here on this, in this bibliography, right there, Rothbard, vertical facial dimensions are linked to abnormal foot position.
That's insane.
So don't blame me. I'm just talking about it. Rothbard
Exactly.
did the research. And so he's out and he did that. Wait a minute. Wait for it. 2008.
Wow.
Like
And they're
a
yelling
really
at us.
2008, and we're talking about it in 2026. And if I post about that, some of these same people are going to, if I didn't mention him and I just said, hey, you know, blah, 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 they're going to have a cow. They'll
Yeah.
literally deliver a baby child cow and go, are you out of your mind? You need to go fly off a bridge someplace. And I say, dude, I'm just quoting the research.
Exactly.
I'm sorry if you didn't bother to read, but we did. And it's
Yeah.
all right here. That's like calvarial bone motion. Well, if that temporal bone's going to externally rotate, it has to mean that these skull bones move. Well, duh. But the minute you say that, a whole host of dentists will have another cow. And you're like, are we really still here? This is like Stone Ages material. This research was done in the 70s. I mean, like
Wow.
for real, in the 40s. In the 1940s, they already suspected it. And then when you explain to them that NASA is obsessed with cranial bone motion, they're like, wait a minute, NASA? You're like, yeah, you know, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, those guys. They're obsessed with cranial bone motion. They've done research articles on it. And they say, not does the cranial bone group move, but when it does, how much? Because we need to know when we send somebody up in outer space.
Mm.
Thank you. I mean, hell, the bag of potato chips when you go in the airplane expands. Open
Exactly.
a bottle of water in the airplane at 30,000 feet and watch what happens. You fly a lot. I fly a lot. I live on a damn airplane. You want to get mail to me, just put a sticker on the back of the seat. I'm sure I'll read it because I'm on a damn plane so much. And the thing is, if you open that bottle, you're going to get wet half the time.
Yeah.
Well, you think our skulls don't? And so if my skull bones move, couldn't we direct movement? Who's the main director? Your tongue.
Ta-da! Ding, 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 ding.
Hello. I mean, so if this tongue directs palatal excursion, but nobody looks at palates. Even the dentist, when you say that palate is asymmetric, they're like, it is?
That was going to be my question.
2/3 of the time, it is. And this is not a slight on dentists, it's a slight on the education. Do you think they taught me that in PT school? Hell no. I literally asked about could back pain be related to diaphragm function? You know what I got? Oh, absolutely not. It was in
Wow.
PT school way back and still to this day. So, you know, the relationships are there, and we're going to chat in this podcast a little bit about it. I'll connect those dots here and it'll be kind of fun. But if we address the connection, we could say, well, is it a top-down driven problem or is it a bottom-up driven problem? Now, what AIA does is it teaches people how to figure out which it is. Are you frozen? I think you're frozen. I see you frozen. Can you hear me? I'm going to send a text. And I'll send a text to, I lost you completely.
It's my computer.
Oh, I feel better. I was worried it was me.
No, I think it's my computer just froze completely. I'm
Okay.
he's mad at me.
I
Sorry about that. I was just sitting here like, oh no. But I don't even think it was my internet. I literally think my computer just like the software
just decided to freeze. Yeah.
I am done, Renata. I need some time. And I'm skipping. Am I skipping right now? It looks like I'm delayed.
Yep, because right now you're frozen again. Your image is frozen. I hear your voice. Say something.
Okay, I think we're back.
Okay, I'm here.
We're gonna have to edit that out. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Can hear you, Mike. You're lucky we see you. Hi, Mike. Good. Thank you guys for letting us know you guys could hear. My computer was completely. I don't know what happened to it. Are we still recording?
Well, okay. All right. Well, you look normal now.
All right, let's go back. So we were talking about. Oh my gosh, my thing.
Oh God, I was on a tear. You know, it was probably good that happened. It probably just shut me up a little bit.
Okay,
You know?
I have a question. What happens upstream when the feet are unstable or dysfunctional?
Okay, so first and foremost, what we need to understand is that this concept called grounding itself, you know, there are kind of two worlds of grounding. You know, one is the, ooh, you know, I'm in touch with Mother Earth, man, and you know, the kind of granola grounding. And but I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking to grounding that can occur. Let me just read a definition. I'm going to read this verbatim.
Awesome.
Grounding is defined as having the ability to deliver forceful pressure down into the surface upon which the body is standing and correctly sense the ground reaction force delivered up from that surface into the foot and or into the body. Sensing the ground reaction force helps the body gain aligned compression, keep that aligned compression, and use it for functional tasks like body transfer and hemispheric escape. Now, that just sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. But what it really means is, can you load on one side and compress like a spring to then escape? That's all it is. Can you sense it? Can you feel the ground? Now, without that sense, bad things happen. But how do you achieve that sense, right? That feeling occurs through diaphragm management. That means mandibular diaphragm, right half or left half, rib cage diaphragm, right or left, pelvic diaphragm, right or left. If you align all three on one side, you will achieve compression, which allows you to feel the ground. Well, at the same time, mandibular diaphragm comes with something unique, a tongue and a maxilla that it engages with. So that means there's maxillary grounding, which also has another definition. Now, all of that, maxillary grounding, by the way, comes first in the womb. Before you ever touch the ground with your feet or your knees or your butt or anything, tongue to palate grounding occurs first in utero. So we already begin a grounding process before we're ever born. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just quoting the research.
Yeah.
And so, but it's nice. Okay, somebody does some research projects on this, but if we don't read it, or if we don't know, if we don't listen and don't apply it, what good does it do to do it? Somebody had a question and they studied the question and they found answers. Now let's use those answers. So this now to the world, to the credit of many pediatric dentists and myofunctional therapists, they are. The culprits who aren't would be the movement people like me. We tend to not. Well, it's up there. I don't need to mess with that. And so we better mess with it. We better understand it because it affects downstream the movement that's happening below. So, if that child has good tongue to palate grounding, they tend to do better in development and midfacial growth and yada, yada, and neck function, etc. Well, back to your original question, like how do we, I can't even remember how the question you phrased.
The feet and the upstream on the feet are unstable or dysfunctional.
So if I have, for example, a foot.
Or does it go the way up or does it go way down?
And that's where we left off before we had our system failure a minute ago.
Yeah.
That's what we train a movement person or a dentist or a bio to understand. Is it a top down or a bottom up? Mm-hmm. And in some instances, it's top down. Got to have a dentist. If it's bottom, have a movement guy. What if it's both? Got to have both. So this is what the trick is for a student of this material to learn it as well as possible so they don't waste a lot of patient time barking at the wrong tree. Mm-hmm. Let's figure out what the right problem is as soon as possible to begin the treatment as quick as possible that's accurate. And if we can do that, it's a big win. This is what we're training for. This is what you and I do. We're trying to figure out as rapidly as possible, which is it? Is it in here? Is it my eyes? Is it my mouth? Is it my neck? Is it my feet? Is it all of the above? And the quicker we can come to those conclusions and get those questions answered, the better off the patient is because they get better quicker. But let's say it's from the bottom up. Okay. Well, let's connect the dot. Let's do it now. Here are 2 feet, a left foot, a right foot. I'm going to take my left foot and pronate it. The minute I roll my left foot in, my femur turns in and my pelvis goes forward on that side. This is Rothbard. Wow. If my pelvis is forward on the left side, my pelvic diaphragm now is on slack. Uh-oh. That means my rib cage will rise on that side and my diaphragm will flatten, my rib cage diaphragm. That immediately means my neck is going to increase activity and draw my tongue down on that side. Well, that means it's not a question of airway. It's a dysfunctional airflow because of a tongue, right side, left side, that's now scoliotic. Mm-hmm. I have a scoliosis in my tongue. And I had not seen anywhere people mentioning scoliotic tongues until AIA started talking about it a few years ago. And I'm starting to hear the term more, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. You were the first one I heard say that.
Say that again?
You were the first one I ever heard say this.
Right, about this whole scoliotic tongue business. But, the minute you have too many people open their mouth and you see that, we need to pay attention to it. They're doing something weird, or that. This one's even weirder. So I would call it a complex scoliosis. So when you have this scoliotic tongue, there has to be a reason. But more importantly, the minute you deal with the rib cage, now the tongue is no longer scoliotic. Wait a minute. Now I can get tongue to palate suction on both sides in 8 seconds flat. Wow. That matters to me. And what makes it stay? Fix the damn foot. Because that foot caused the femur to rotate and tip the pelvis forward. So if I supinate the foot and get the femur to turn out, the pelvis can pull back. Now the rib cage can drop and the neck gets long. Now the tongue is free to rise. Class dismissed. So if we can think like that, whoa, it suddenly, I wouldn't know a myofunctional therapist exercise from a man on the moon. I don't do that. What I do know is that if the myo puts the patient in certain positions to allow rib cage to descend and free the neck, the tongue's going up better. And then now the myo is free to train that patient more easily if the patient's in a certain position that's outlined in some of the stuff that we teach, which is why we're writing this myo course right now. So
I
because
love it.
I'm not interested in telling the myofunctional therapist how to do exercises.
We
They
need
know
to
the stuff.
understand this. We need to understand this though, because so
Yes.
many times we see that. And then the questions, the parents are like, okay, if the tongue is asymmetrical, is that because the palate is asymmetrical? Is there something else affecting that? Does that mean that whenever I expand, it's going to be asymmetrical expansion? Can you talk a little bit about
Oh, God,
expanding people with?
You're teasing me now. Okay. So let me just say this, that an asymmetrical palate, let's say this is a right side, here's a left side, and let's call it internally rotated on the right side and externally rotated on the left side. Now, palates, according to a researcher, I think his last name is Crow, he said that palates move 1 millimeter 6 times a minute.
Wow.
Well, that gets interesting. A total excursion of 1 millimeter 6 times a minute. Well, that's imperceptible, 1 millimeter. They had to measure that using ultrasound stuff and all that. Now, the interesting thing about that movement is it's brought to you by a tongue. But what if my tongue is asymmetric? Is that what caused the palate to be asymmetric? No. What I would tell you is the palate wasn't asymmetric and caused a scoliotic tongue. A scoliotic tongue caused a palate to be asymmetric from 2 different directions. One, from what I described a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
2 is the skull bone movements that is created by the asymmetric position of the entire body. Now, you and I were at Panny up in New York, and you saw that little talk I did there.
Yeah,
and when that neck bends one way, there's an asymmetric pressure of the atlas against the occiput, which creates a cranial strain that internally rotates one or the other side of the palate. That has nothing to do with the tongue.
Wow.
That's just body position. So body position can create an asymmetric palate, but body position creates an asymmetric tongue, which enhances the asymmetric palate and makes it worse.
Oh my gosh.
Here's the kicker. Wait for this. Now, let's do a palatal expansion. Let's say this asymmetric palate is also narrow. Now let's expand it. Now, what we know is when you expand it, it's going to expand on the side that's weakest. Well, that would be the externally rotated side. So now you have a wider but still asymmetric palate. So a patient might report some improved ability to breathe, and I'm happy for them. In fact, palatal expansion activities and surgical devices, et cetera, surgeries and devices have been very beneficial. I want to make sure I'm coming out front and saying that, because suddenly somebody will say, well, Mike hates palatal expansion. Palatal expansion. What I love is palatal expansion in the right place. That's like saying Mike hates umbrellas. No, I love umbrellas when it's raining. But
Exactly.
water's fine. I don't need an umbrella. So I like palatal expansion on the right patient. And plenty of patients will have their palate expand, asymmetric though it may be. They're happy. What do I care? I'm happy for them.
Mm-hmm.
But many times what you see is a dramatic, enhanced asymmetry. What stopped this side from expanding? Because this side was internally rotated like this compared to the other, because there's an entire body behind this internally rotated palate. Who's over here keeping it from moving? A sphenoid bone.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that sphenoid bone pterygoid plate in the way? Because the entire sphenoid bone is down on that side and forward, which is pushing the palate in. Why is that sphenoid down and forward? Because the occiput is turned in the wrong direction. Why? Because of the neck. Why? Because of the body. Why? Because of the load. Why? Because I can't feel the ground. Change it while they're getting palatal expansion, and you will see immediate symmetric palatal expansion. I don't even think it. I freaking know it. Why? Because the research already tells us that. Just go read the articles. But that's what we're doing. We're just reading the articles. We're saying, dude, if you're doing palatal expansion, link up with somebody who knows how to correct body position at the same time. And A, the palatal expansion goes faster, and B, it becomes more symmetric and less dramatically asymmetric. Well, how do you know when you're doing the body stuff right? Testing. It's not hard. It's not mumbo jumbo. Let me push down on your arm. It is literally testing performance with objective data and measurements. Because if it's not objective, I'm not buying it.
So what would you usually recommend in terms of a patient who's coming to you and they are too narrow, they do need expansion, they're completely dysfunctional. And by the way, let me do a side note here. Think about the dysfunctional patient. Everything is crooked, out of place, and they go to a dentist and they get a filling or they get a crown and they get something else. Those are the patients that are going to have pain. They're going to have more issues. I can only imagine. I mean, you're destabilizing the system even more. Oh my gosh. Okay. But how about a patient comes to you and they do have this narrow palate, they need more skeletal expansion, more help. How should they think about this? Should I go to the physical therapist first and get this treatment done? How long does it take usually? When do I go to the dentist and start the process? Can I do both of them together?
So first, if it's not extremely complex, treatment doesn't take very long at all. I also noticed that in younger patients, it's really fast. Oh, broken down folks like me, it takes a little longer, but it still can work just fine. As far as when do you do it? Do I, do it? Which comes first, the chicken or the egg? Do I see the dentist? And, what I would think would be a normal progression is somebody might go see a dentist and, they may determine that they've got an airway dysfunction. Okay, fine. And they say, one of the things we might suggest is palatal expansion. Now I'm blessed, and let me tell you why, because a number of the palatal expansion folks out there might say, okay, go see these guys and let them work on you a little bit, because after they work on you, we may discover that you don't really need that palatal expansion or that tongue release or whatever. So we can start a little bit of work, and suddenly if the patient's reporting, I kind of feel okay. Okay, then don't have the palatal expansion. Great. But the next patient says, this is definitely improving, or better yet, the patient says, I think I'm a little better. That's just them being nice. So they say, well, I think I'm a little better. You go, okay, maybe you are. Your tests look great. So since you're not saying, wow, do I feel great? You're a good candidate for that palatal expansion. So go have it done, because your scores tell me that you will do well with that expansion. So now it'll happen faster and more symmetric. Your test scores look good. It's saying your body is ready to receive the expansion. Just like braces. Somebody wants to get braces. Let me do a little bit of work with you, because now your body is ready to receive those braces. And lo and behold, instead of 2 years, it was 6 months.
Wow.
It's just easier. Bodies get in the way of teeth movement, and teeth get in the way of body movement all the time.
Wow.
So if we could get the two to shake hands, everybody's happy. It's just common sense. You don't need an education for that.
So for those people who have already gone through the process and they're just listening to this now, do they have hope? Can they still?
Of course. Here's the last thing I want. I don't want somebody to go, oh my God, I had palatal expansion. Am I doomed? Hell no. You had palatal expansion. So what? Let's work on you. If you're having problems, they may say, I feel fine. Great. You don't need me. You need me like a fish needs a bicycle. But if you are having difficulty, like I had my palatal expansion, but I still feel like I have the same problems I had before. That's super common. Well, if you still have those problems, then let's work on it. It's not that tough. And there are plenty of AIA people out there, and an email to us or checking out your what you said you were going to put up, about some people whoever's taking it. But that, if you just get someone who understands this body movement, and there are plenty of them, they can look at you and teach you how to teach your body how to move. And suddenly, now you got a huge airway already because you've had this expansion. Well, suddenly now you know how to use the airway. I had a patient who had expansion, double jaw surgery twice, and was still having problems. I can't breathe. Well, it was like he bought a brand new Ferrari, but he didn't have the keys. So it's like, look, the airway is monstrously big. It's as big as a number 10 can, but he doesn't know how to use it because his tongue is in the way. Well, he needs myo. He had myo, but myo can't work if a rib cage is elevated. This is him, except he had a big forward head because he was trying to find air. And so the neck always chases the face. So if you build a face forward, the neck's coming forward. And so all we did with him was teach him how to breathe. You just don't know how to breathe, which seems silly. What do? You inhale, you exhale, but he couldn't do that.
By the way, I am going to share my stories on Maya Moves right after this. One of my most insane posture changes on a patient I have ever seen just with myofunctional therapy. Can you see this?
See, now, I love that.
Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful?
So, hey, and that's just with myofunctional therapy. So here's the question.
Look at
Was
that.
it a top down or a bottom up? Well, duh, it was a top down.
She's not done. She has a lot of work to do. But
yeah, but she's already driven 1,000 miles. She's entered the new town and she is ready to find a house to live in. She looks great. So when you see that sort of thing, and at that point, that tongue was stopping everything. She might as well have been walking on one leg.
Right. It's crazy. It's crazy how much we can help our patients, but by working together. What happens mechanically, though, when someone becomes a chronic mouth breather? Tell me now what happens from top down.
Well, then let's say step one. If I'm a chronic mouth breather, it means my tongue is not up. And remember what I said about palatal movement. So palatal movement is keeping skull bones unlocked. And when skull bones are unlocked, midfacial development can happen because palatal movement is brought to you by a tongue that is capable of movement with a concept that we've created called stomatic flow. This is a big deal. In the world of vision, there's something called optic flow. I can tell I'm moving because I see things going past me. Well, stomatic flow is basically, I know my palates is having excursion because my tongue is creating the excursion. Load on the right, load on the left. That creates the palatal movement. Great. That stomatic flow is what develops the midface. But the midface can't develop if the bones are locked. In other words, there is no stomatic flow. So a free moving mandible and a free moving maxilla, courtesy of a properly positioned tongue and a patent airway, is what develops the midface. My midface, because we always say, well, you have to nasal breathe to develop a midface. Really? How? That's a fair question. How? Well, you just do because the tongue makes the premaxilla move forward. Right. That's great. How? It's always how or why. And so the tongue alternating sides creates palatal alternation, which unlocks the skull bones, which allows the maxilla and the vomer and all the rest, the zygomas, to move and fill out a face. So without that, the patient is not going to have a patent airway. So they now got to do compensation. And the first, I am sure going to do one thing as a person who has these problems. I'm certainly not going to die because I like life. So I'll find a way to breathe. I'll just open my mouth. Now, and what? How come I started out that way? How come I didn't start out like my brother or my sister? Well, something happened in utero. My tongue-to-palate grounding did not occur in utero very well. That's interesting, right? So this began before I was born. Maybe I got up early. Instead of having development of my molars, I stood too soon as a baby. And so now I'm walking at 8 months and my mom and dad are bragging about it when it really wasn't at all. Because if I don't crawl, I don't have asymmetric or symmetrical alternating movement, which creates stomatic flow. And that's what creates the molars to descend and ascend sooner, to emerge, to erupt. And when the molars erupt, I stand up. Molars erupt, I stand up. That's the rule. So that should happen, what is it, 12, 13 months, something like that? Not 8. And so that limitation in midfacial development brought to you by a mouth breathe, probably brought to you by something that happened in utero, which was lack of maxillary grounding or tongue to palate grounding. All of that then is what limits the motion. But what creates the motion, I think, is more fun, and a tongue that is able to have stomatic flow to create the alternating palate to unlock the skull bones. That's what keeps the neck at a normal curve and keeps the airway open. I hope I answered the question.
You did. You mentioned about these being locked.
Yeah.
Are they the same thing as cranial strains?
That is a cranial strain. So
Okay.
all we did was we say they're locked, but really they lock in certain ways that we could name.
Sorry.
Hush, dog. So if I bend my elbow is bent. This is an elbow strain.
Okay.
What's the name of this strain? Bent elbow.
Okay.
It's a technical name. Bent elbow. Well, cranial strains are different because I got a lot of bones and it's an orb. So how do you name temporal bone out on one side and in on the other? How do you name that? Well, the osteopaths began a naming process, and they named it after the sphenoid. If it's down on one side and doesn't change, well, if it's down on my right, it's a right side bend. If it's down on the left, it's a left side bend. Okay, that's fine. I get it. Now that's relative to my occiput. So if this is my occiput and this is my sphenoid, if they're both down on the right, right side bend. If they're both down on the left, left side bend. But if it's down on the right and this way on the occiput, that'd be a left torsion. So I've got a right side bend, left torsion. Or I could have a left side bend, right torsion. Or I could have a left side bend, left torsion. Whoa. Weird, right? Now, if I look at me from the top, like I look down like this, and you're looking at me from the top, here's my occiput and here's my sphenoid. They also do this. But what if they do that? Uh-oh, that's a problem. This is a shear. So they should rotate in opposite directions. But if they do this, that's a shear and it creates stress where they meet. So left shear, right shear, superior shear, inferior shear, all named after the sphenoid, the one in front. So if we name the named cranial strains, left side bend, right side bend, left torsion, right torsion, superior, inferior shear, left shear, right shear, and then the final guy, compression, jam my face in. So things like impacts and all that create the shears and compressions and all of that. Body position typically creates the side bends and the torsions. Well, what if I've got a body position and I was in 2 car wrecks and I was kicked by a horse? All of the above. Am I a complex patient? Oh, yeah. So now it takes a lot more nurturing for us to unlock skull bones, free up the mandible, free up the maxilla, get the neck to move, stop neck breathing, which pulls your tongue down, get the rib cage down, create system flexion, teach this person how to rotate, teach them how to ground. All of those things start to happen. And suddenly this complex patient wasn't so bad after all. It's kind of cool.
My gosh, Mike, I can seriously listen to you all day long.
Unfortunately, I would never shut up. And eventually, you'd be suicidal. You'd be begging me to stop. Like, I'm throwing in the towel. Where's my towel?
What is the one thing? Oh, I actually had a quick question. Grace asked, if molars erupt or stand up, is walking appropriate anytime after that? Yes,
absolutely. Once your molars erupt, it's time for the kid to get up. Usually what's happening is they're starting to cruise on furniture at that point anyway. As the molars are getting eruption, they're hanging onto the couch and they're starting to explore, letting go with one hand and trying to do some stunt, you know, like kids do. I have 3, so you know how they roll. But yeah, so yes.
I am going to post this on Myo Moves right away for everybody who wants to rewatch the live. However, I lost connection in the middle of this presentation, so I'm not really sure what is actually recording because it's showing me a black screen right now.
Well, you know,
listening.
If worse comes to worse, we can always do this again.
Oh my goodness. You know, I would love to have you here again.
That would be easy. It's fun. I like chatting with you anyway. This would just be fun for me.
So what is the one thing you wish every healthcare provider understood about the body?
the massive impact it has on teeth and tongues. I want every healthcare provider to know that this body directly impacts tooth organization and tongues. All teeth are kids on a school bus. And those teeth, those kids, we don't have to worry about where they're sitting. What we need to worry about is the school bus on the road or is it going off a cliff? Now, if it's going off a cliff, all the kids on the school bus are going to be screaming and freaking out and running around everywhere. And the bus driver's never going to get them to sit down.
Mm-hmm.
But if we put the bus back on the road, all the kids will go sit down where they belong. They'll sit with their friends, they'll chat, and they'll ride to school.
I
Because
love
with
that.
this is the bus.
Mm-hmm.
These teeth are just little passengers on the bus.
I love it. Where can people learn more about your work and the Applied Integration Academy?
Well, if they just go online, appliedenintegrationacademy.com. That's a good place to start. They can go to our Instagram page if they want it, AIA. Yeah, Applied Integration Academy. So, you know, we're easily findable. What I would love for movement people and dentists to show up as teams at our coursework, because the quicker we build more teams and get them officially trained, the happier my life would be, because then I wouldn't have to see patients from Slovenia. And that just shouldn't be. So there you go.
I agree. Let's get together, work together, connect all these other professionals so we can better serve our patients. Look how much we're missing still to this day, how much more
I love them all.
Right? And the more we learn, the more we realize how much we still have to learn for these patients. But
yeah,
my gosh,
it's getting desperate for me. I feel like I know nothing. And it's like the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. And I don't know diddly squat. You can sit and write all the dang gum books you want, but it doesn't mean a damn thing. It's just, well, here's what I know so far. Okay, so what? There's still that patient out there I can't fix.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Mike, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Guys, if you're not following us on your favorite podcast platform, please run over there, look up Beauty of Breathing. And this episode should be out next Tuesday. Thank you so much, Mike.
I love chatting with you. I love you. You're a great person.
Same, love you too. Everybody have a wonderful day. Bye. Thank you.